Go with me here.
I'll go with you.
I like this.
Okay.
I do like the fact that at least it feels like more people are being outspoken about things that they really are truly in love with or passionate about.
Yes, I agree.
The abortion ramifications in Texas right now, and of course that's spreading, and that the door's open there, and so people are freaking out about that. I think it's important for the most part, and I can only say this because I lived in the 60s and 70s, and I learned from my father. My dad realized he was one voice, and he couldn't make a difference. Okay. He was always like, is my life 4 years better than it was last 4 years? And I'm going to go politics because a lot of this has to do with this. But it's like, there's nothing I can really do about it. And now we're finding out that we can make a difference in a lot of ways if we have, and thanks, I guess, in part to like Facebook groups where you can reach a large portion of people.
That's right.
It used to be you had flyers out in the neighborhood. We're getting together and going to have a protest. People would show up and, okay, now we have Million Man Marches. We have this thing where the gal in Hawaii did the Women Millions March for women. We have Black Lives Matter. We have all these organizations that are million strong. And I think that's good. I think it's great because of that many people. Now, with those types of groups, you have conspiracy groups. You have the good old boys. You have all these other things that aren't necessarily good for what our society is going through. But I do respect not their views, but I respect the fact they believe in something so strongly that they're willing to step and walk with their feet, i.e. the insurrection on the 6th of January. No, I don't respect their ideologies, but I respect the fact that someone feels so strongly about something that they're willing to take a week off work and travel to Washington, D.C., and then they get their ass burned for it because everyone said you're an idiot.
But there's a piece that gets in there. There's a piece that gets in there. And I'm not talking about the insurrection. I'm talking about all of them.
Yeah.
It's you've heard of the idea, we have this in business all the time, groupthink. Uh-huh. So we're all sitting down and we're all kind of talking about the same thing, same topic or whatever. And somehow by the end of the meeting, there's this crazy idea that's come out. Mm-hmm. It hasn't really come out from any one person.
Yep.
Most of us are like, Tony thinks it's okay. And I don't know where, okay. But if you look at the product that's come out, you're like, that's freaking crazy.
Yep.
That's what happens a lot in these groups.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's the reason.
So are we going to do this or not? Let's do it.
Well,
and next thing you know, people are like,
again, and that's
whatever that is. Yeah.
Well, insurrection was a good example. So yes, there were a lot of people who were passionate about going to the Capitol to say, we don't believe in what happened with the election. Okay, fine. Somehow that turned into busting through the Capitol doors.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they've interviewed people. They've interviewed lots of people who are like, I was just here for the protest. And I think that's the thing that gets concerning. And this goes all the way back. Oh, God, this goes all the way back to your whole, the imaging wasn't done right. Mm-hmm. There is this thing that happens among humans. We have words that we speak and thoughts in our head, and they don't always match up. And unless we are, and sometimes we're afraid to state it over again. Like, I'm going to insult your intelligence if I said, now, are you sure you understand? Let's make sure we're on the same page, because it feels like I'm patronizing. But the reality is, if we want to make sure that we're on the same page, then any group event that we're doing, any personal interaction, we should do a thing. Brene Brown brings up. It's called paint done, which makes no sense grammatically, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
The idea is, before we leave whatever we're doing, before we leave this group, we all are going to state in words specifically what we think we're supposed to be doing, right? So the imaging is a great example. The imaging needs to have hard driving, rock beds. That needs to be 15 seconds. It needs to have this language in the in, this language in the out. This is what it is. Do you understand that? And do you agree with that? Yes or no? Okay, now huddle, break, huddle, go.
Yeah.
And I think that you see it in companies all the time. Everybody's like, everybody good? Mm-hmm. We're all good? Yep, we're all good. And then it goes out. Nobody does the same thing, because we say we're all good. We don't understand what exactly we're thinking.
Well, and I think for the most part.
And relationships as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think for the most part, whenever we have an organization where it's a Million Man March, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's a million women's march, whatever the cause of the LGBTQ community, which we'll talk about Dave Chappelle in a minute. I think for the most part, the ideologies, the original ideas are good ideas that we want to get behind something and support. And then what happens is it's mold on cheese.
Yeah.
The center of the cheese is still good, it's still delicious, but you got all this green part on the side that starts to come into play, and you have outliers and everything, and you got people that are taking, if you look at any organization, I don't want to specifically say one because I don't want to catch hell for it, but any specific organization, their mission statement, whatever it is, for the most part, I'm like, okay, that's not something I necessarily want to get behind because I'm not so passionate about it, doesn't really affect me, whatever the reason is. But then you get the outliers who want to take it, and it's the same thing as peaceful protest, in a downtown area. Next thing you know, we're breaking windows.
Right.
And it's kind of like, wait a minute here. And that really plays against. And then you got people being paid to be there, or you got people they got their own issues. They have a mob mentality. They want to be part of something where they're pushing over police cars because it has nothing to do with what's going on. And so that's the part. The other part I think is really interesting too is when parents, I've never been a protest guy. I can only think of a couple of times where I actually stood in solidarity with another large group of people for a common cause. We did something for 9/11 at Regents Park. We raised a lot of money, and we made a big flag and to send off to our troops and to first responders and people in New York and Pennsylvania and places that were directly affected by the attacks. The other one was when a police officer was shot and killed in Vestavia, and they had a parade for him. And I said, we're going to go stand with our flags. And I felt that was important because I wanted my kids to respect authority and understand how important it is. And it's interesting to me because there's so many people that used to sit by and watch, and they could be as passionate about it, but they're not going to actually be engaged with that. And so, I will say this, and I tell my kids, pick your battles carefully. Know what you're getting yourself into. Understand the ideologies of the group that you're in. My son is obviously at Indians. They have all kinds of debate teams and little groups. They create groups all the time, right? And then realize, be careful what you're getting yourself into. And at what point do I want to jump in? Because once you're in, you're all in. And it's interesting because I think people even 10 years ago felt much more comfortable. I really believe in something, but I'm going to sit back and watch and see how it goes. And I believe in that, and I pray about it. But it's actually being represented
because it's
at
more
that group.
risk.
And we have more and more people doing that now. And so
more and more people stepping back or stepping in.
Stepping in.
I think that's the right thing to do.
And that, to my point, I respect that when you're so passionate about something, you're willing to take a half day off work to go stand for something you believe in, whether it's saving a tree or saving a culture or LGBTQ or whatever. I applaud your efforts. That's great. It doesn't always affect everyone else, so don't get angry when other people don't see it your way because we're all differently.
That's okay.
But I respect that, and I think more people feel more comfortable. And now with the mass media and social media platforms, it's so much easier. If I wanted to have a protest today at noon, I could get 100 people to show up.
Yes, you could. But I think that's I think that part is okay.
And as crazy as it is, or as the wrench you call it, another, oh gosh, now we're going to be protesting this, or we don't believe in this, or the abortion, blah, 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 blah. What people need to realize is again, if you're going to stand for something, you don't just do it and it goes away. If you're so passionate about something where you're going to take a day off work or do whatever, and you're going to stand with somebody and protest something, unless it gets fixed. And in most of these things aren't going to get fixed. The LGBTQ plus community is always going to be a hot spot. Black Lives Matter is always going to be a hot spot. Politics are always going to be a hot spot. Insurrection is always going to be. It's never going to get fixed.
Well,
it's not. It can get better. It can get better. Abortion's never going to get fixed. These are all things that there's no end in sight. Now we can make them better, and we can push our agendas, and we can change laws, but there's still going to be bias in all those areas, and that's what I think a lot of us have a hard time dealing with.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Agreed?
But it sort of. I mean, again, I'm using Black Lives Matter as a great example.
Greenhouse.
What? Well, that's the thing.
Greenhouse.
That's the thing. We cannot, if we take the attitude that it's never going to get fixed, that we can't fix it, then we're throwing our society under the bus.
Well, no, it's not. It's sometimes you can't, just because you can't.
Fix is the wrong word.
Just because you can't.
Fix is the wrong word.
Yeah, just because you can't fix it or there's not an end all to it, doesn't mean you can't put duct tape on it and make it better.
No, okay, but listen.
My refrigerator right now is on the blink.
But hang on, but let me throw 2, 3, 8 of them in there.
Yeah.
Equal rights in the workplace. Mm-hmm. Equal rights in the workplace. Systemic racism. Hate crimes. I'm making this. I understand, because you can make the argument that no matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody. Mm-hmm. But I don't like that argument, because it's easy then. It's not you, but it's easy to go. Then,
doesn't mean you don't fight for it.
Well, and you don't
because
have
sometimes you have to constantly fight for it to keep it to where it's at.
Well, but that's
because if you forget about it, then it can get worse.
Again, it's a good example.
Yeah,
it's a good example. Gender equality. Let's just use that as an example. We should not have to continually fight for it forever, right? Like well, we shouldn't. It makes absolutely no sense.
No, you're right. In a perfect world, we shouldn't. But it's not
even a perfect world.
It's not
in a right world.
Yeah.
Same with
but I mean, there's
equal
not
rights for
it doesn't exist in our world.
Yeah, but okay. But that's the difference between you. That's the difference between your view and my view. There is no reason why it shouldn't exist, and so I believe that it can exist.
I hope that it can exist.
I believe that it can.
And I'll you know how faithful and hopeful I am.
No, I know.
I want it to, but I'm a realist.
Yeah, and but I don't. But I know you. Your realism is, I'm okay with it because I know you. I also think it's an not for you, but I think it is an easy excuse for people to go, well, we're going to do the best we can.
Sometimes.
But
it depends on what I feel like I can fight.
Well, I feel like there's certain ones, again, men and women should be treated equal, period.
Sure.
All races should be treated equal.
Absolutely.
Period. You know what I mean? And so this is one of those ones where we're not going to say, well, we're going to do the best that we can. That's bullshit. Like we can do better than the best that we can.
I know we can do better. I know we can do better. But this vaccination thing is the latest. It is what it is. And so I've got to make the best of the situation we're in, because there are too many. We're not going to change anti-vaxxers' views.
No.
Not now. I mean, there's still 1,000 people a day dying, and we think we're good.
I feel like it's related. It's related, but I do feel like comparing a virus outbreak to gender equality is too different.
There are apples and oranges. I agree with you.
I understand the thread. I understand the thread. I think the frustration for people like me, I think even anti-vaxxers, even the anti-vaxxers, I think the frustration is with this whole virus has been nobody, I don't care which side you're on, nobody thought that this thing was going to keep going.
Yeah.
I think so. So I think everybody is pissed at the way that it's going. And we're all pissed. I love this. I've said this before. We can agree that we're all pissed off. Mm-hmm. We're on the same damn page. I'm with you, anti-vaxxer. I am so freaking pissed of this, and so are you. Now, the problem is what you're doing and what I'm doing may not be bringing us in the same direction, but we can stand in solidarity at how pissed off we are that this is the lives that we're leading.
Well, and I don't think anti-vaxxers are pissed off at vaccination people. This is not a difference between anti-vaxxers and vaccinated.
They're pissed off at mandates.
They're pissed off at the mandates. They're pissed off at the government. They're pissed off at the people that are forcing them to do that. They're not mad at us. No, anti-vaxxers aren't angry at me because I got vaccinated.
But if you run a business that mandates people be vaccinated before they come in.
Well, and there's your excuse. I'm mandated to do it. What am I supposed to do?
No. Well, mandated. But even if you weren't mandated, if you said in my business. Restaurants. In my restaurant, you cannot come in unless you're vaccinated.
And that's where I make my argument. I put my foot down. Well, when you own your own business, you let me know how you're going to run your business. Because this is my business, and this is how I provide for my family. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to be here.
Right.
But you're not going to tell me how to run my business, and if you don't like wearing a mask or you want to start a fight, then go off and do your own thing. But, I mean, this is my business, and this is how I make a living. Because a lot of people that are anti-vaxxers, and I'm not broad brushing, okay, and those are the ones that You're not welcome in my store if you wear a mask. If you wear a mask, you're not welcome here. Or you're not welcome in my church if you wear. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Fine. See how that works out for you.
Yes.
See how that works out for you. Okay. Good. There's plenty of other churches. There's plenty of other stores. That's fine.
Yep.
And that's where we differ. That's great stuff.